A pleasant good morning to everyone. Welcome to another edition of the Coles Brown Show, heard exclusively right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com. Today's guest menu looks like this. He's the commissioner of the Southwestern Athletic Conference, Dr. Charles McClellan. He will join me very shortly to talk, of course, Southwestern Athletic Conference sports and, of course, the big news, which broke last week, FAMU to the Southwestern Athletic Conference. Then, following Dr. McClellan will be Coach Carl Reed Jr., first-time guest, head football coach of Lutheran North Middle and High School in St. Louis, Missouri. It's going to be interesting talking with him. He has a simple request. HBCUs, come recruit my school, my players. And, of course, he coached Akil Glass, the quarterback at Alabama A&M. And then last but not least, Coach Van Pettaway. He'll join me in hour number 2, the Coles Brown Show's basketball analyst. But we talk all things sports with Coach Pettaway. Before I go any further, some breaking news. As far as Southern University and the conference, let me say this. I put out a call, and it was a spur of the moment to Coach Roman Banks. But via, I guess, Zoom, a couple of minutes ago, he basically stated that the Bayou Classic for 2020 season will not be held in New Orleans, and possibly 2021 as well. Southern is the home football team for the Bayou Classic, and alternative spots, and I quote, A.W. Mumford Stadium in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, capacity 28,500. Independence Stadium in Shreveport, Louisiana, capacity 51,000, or somewhere in that line. And also, he talked about maybe having conversations with LSU, Tiger Stadium, which capacity is whatever number you want to put on there, 90,000 plus seat stadium. So I did put in the call to Coach Banks via a text message, actually. And so we will see about that situation. What's trending on today's show? Our thoughts and prayers and deepest sympathy goes out to the Ken Riley family. Ken Riley passed away this past week. SWAC announces a partnership with the United States Air Force and Hampton to discontinue women's and men's golf. Reason given, COVID-19. Let me say quickly to Dr. Michael Prince. Brother Prince, good morning to you.
Good morning, sir. How are you this morning?
Well, I'm doing fine. Just a lot on the plate before the show, and then, breaking news, living, making adjustments to this thing called life. But other than that, hey, thank God there is a God, and I woke up this morning.
That's all that matters, brother. You woke up. Once again, you bring up another one of them songs, with my mind stayed on Jesus.
So, yeah, I understand that, brother. You doing okay?
I'm doing real good, man. My daughter graduated last week. We had a real special time with that.
Congratulations.
Oh, thank you very much. My last of the Mohicans in the household. So my wife and I are almost just free to roam, man. 3 stages of marriage when you have children. That's the honeymoon stage, the sacrifice stage, and then the reacquaintance stage. So we're about to get into that reacquaintance stage.
All right now. And I think I did see a picture of you and your lovely daughter, and very touching, very touching. I'll just leave it at that. It was a very nice picture. You could see the love through the picture and the emotion of the moment.
Yeah, Yeah, it was. Daughters got a way of bringing stuff out of daddies, and it was a real tender moment, and I'm very proud of all my children. I'm proud to serve my community. I've been on the school board and elected official. This is my fourth term. Been serving now 11 of 12 years. And I'm just thankful, man. I'm a blessed man. I'm a blessed man and got a wonderful family to show for it.
Yeah, outstanding. And maybe one day we'll get you to say a word or two about the new members of the family. They have hit social media. That is the strike, FAMU. We were talking before the show. They've come in and they are at least talking the talk.
Oh, very much so. Very much. There's no shyness with Fam Nation, Rattler Nation. They're coming in boss hogs. And when you look at it on paper, I can somewhat see their confidence.
Cocky, confident.
Well,
reminds you of another fan base.
Whoa. Did you just say cocky?
Yeah.
I know.
Confident.
I know the Southern Jag fan themselves didn't say cocky.
Oh, we're definitely cocky and confident.
Man, now it's almost a matter of who's the cockiest, Fam, you or Southern. We're going to have to give you all the title because you've been in the conference longer. But my goodness, Fam, you was coming in blowing their guns, man. I'm serious.
Yeah. Well, no, I've seen it on social media. I've made some contacts, some new friends with some of the Rattlers already.
Oh, that's a beautiful thing, man. That's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. And whenever this situation gets straight, as far as the pandemic and all of that, because let me just say this: we got a few minutes before I'm going to join Dr. Charles McClellan. Every day you kind of look and scour the news, and Mississippi State players tested already. University of Houston suspended voluntary workouts, 6 student athletes. So I'm not surprised. I'm not happy about it, but it's just the times that we're in right now. We will continue to see this, unfortunately.
No doubt at all.
And so, as I told you earlier, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but you give the information out, and that's what you're required to do. And everyone will have a certain opinion about it. They'll feel a certain way about it, but this is just the beginning. Just the beginning of a tough situation. And as I spoke to someone earlier this week, my concern is, schools like Southern and Prairie View, that are considered, low resource schools. How will they react to a situation like that? Yeah.
Well, you really can't react because you don't have the finances to react to it. We did a story last week just for fall testing alone. You're looking at $450,000 if you test ball players 3 times a week. That's Wednesday, Saturday, and then on Monday, leading to the game, the day of the game, and then after you return from the game. Man, it's to me, it's just a futile attempt. I understand you got to try, but, and I'm talking for FCS. I'm not just talking about HBCU. Man, put together a solid plan and come back for 2021. And I think it's better anyway, since we'll have FAMU coming right now, let's just bypass this 2020 season and get this thing started off right with a nice, big, fat media day and wherever we're going to have it, and then kick off the 2021 season and see who's going to be where.
Sounds all right to me. Because this thing is just ongoing. It changes daily. You can have a plan. Okay, boom, in place. Boop, got to change it.
There's only one plan. There's only one plan.
Yeah, well,
find a cure. Find a cure.
Yeah. Yeah, and that is still not happening just right now.
Because anything else is a shot in the dark or hoping that it sticks to the wall. Find a cure, then work your plan. Until that, you can stay optimistic, stay real, stay enthusiastic.
Stay safe.
But then, look, stay in your place, too.
Yeah, stay safe as well. The SWAC announces a partnership with United States Air Force beginning fall 2020. The partnership agreement will feature state-of-the-art esports gaming opportunities for league fans, student athletes, and supporters at select SWAC championships and tournament events. Here's a quote from our first guest today, Dr. Charles McClellan. We're extremely excited to partner with the United States Air Force in this new venture that will bring exciting on-site activations of esports platforms to our league. So, SWAC announces a partnership with the United States Air Force. He's got to be a hard-working guy, I'm telling you. Although with this pandemic going on, you still got to get things done. You really do. Ken Riley. Thoughts and prayers go out to the family, the FAMU family. Remember him more so in the NFL playing for those Cincinnati Bengals.
The Bungles.
Yeah. And just a terrific player. I had to go pull up some of his coaching days at FAMU. You can go on the Coles Brown Facebook page. I put up the 1991 Ken Riley show, and lo and behold, they were playing Grambling State University, and you can watch it on there. And they did mention that they had played. They lost that game to Grambling State late, and they had lost to Southern that year. Makes my mind have to go back. Dr. Princeton, 91.
Yeah.
Long time.
Long time ago there, brother.
Yeah. And so, once again, our thoughts and prayers to the family and the FAMU family. And Hampton to discontinue women's and men's golf. Reason being, COVID-19. And unfortunately, Dr. Prince, you are hearing more of those stories.
Oh, yeah. You're talking about the shutdowns of programs?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. You know, Pine Bluff just announced this week that they've eliminated men and women's tennis as well.
Yeah.
It's rough, brother. Yeah. It's a reality check.
Yeah, I understand. With that being said, let's take a time out. We'll check in with Dr. McClellan, and we'll have him up next. So, after this quick time out, Dr. Charles McClellan, you're listening to the Carlos Brown Show on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com. Welcome back to this week's edition of the Coles Brown Show, heard exclusively right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com. Today's first guest, he's the commissioner of the Southwestern Athletic Conference, Dr. Charles McClellan. Dr. McClellan, good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, Carlos. How's it going on your end, sir?
Man, I'm doing all right. I'm being safe. And how are you, sir?
Doing well. Doing the same thing.
Yeah. Well, you're a busy guy. You're all over the place.
Yeah, well, you can't sit still in this COVID-19. There's still a lot of work to be done. So we're trying to move the conference forward. So we're going to continue to do that.
I understand that. Appreciate the time and appreciate the effort there. Dr. McClellan, the significance of FAMU joining the Southwestern Athletic Conference. Talk about that.
Well, I think it's huge for the forward progression of our conference. We've been one of the most stable conferences in the last 100 years. There's been a lot of movement, not necessarily within the Southwestern Athletic Conference. So when we move, we want to move strategically. Florida A&M allows us to be able to enhance our brand. We think that it was a great move for Florida A&M. They're joining our conference. They're joining a conference with a lot of name brands, huge support from a fan's perspective, bands, academic rigor, geographical footprint. But we also think that it puts our conference in a position to where we are expanding from a point of strength in all of those areas, not just from on the field, but also in the classroom, to be able to add another pharmacy school, another law school, internationally renowned business school, fits well with what we have in the conference. So great synergy, geographical fit, brand name fit. We've led FCS 42 of the last 43 years. You're bringing in the 10th rank attendance program in FCS. So again, just a natural fit. So it does nothing but enhance what we're doing, and absolutely no opposition from my administration, from the ADs to SWAs to coaches to presidents. Everybody saw it as a perfect fit.
Yeah, and that was going to be one of my points to cover. So you just did that. So FAMU, for the record, FAMU, they reached out to you, correct?
Yeah, well, they were undergoing a study, and their study came back as it did in 2013, is that SWAC is a better fit for you if you're looking to leave the MEAC. And, I think they have documented some of the financial issues that they had with travel within the MEAC. So once that study was completed, the administration looked and said, hey, SWAC, would you be interested in talking to us? And who wouldn't be interested in talking to Florida A&M? So that's how the process started.
Now, Dr. McClellan, once that happened, I know you've had to address this already, so I'll have to ask again. Continued expansion. Will the SWAC entertain conversations from other institutions that maybe are interested in joining the Southwestern Athletic Conference?
But we always entertain conversation. That will never stop. Anybody that is of legitimate weight to enhance our brand and our forward progression, we will always entertain those conversations. But I've always said with that, we are perfectly fine with 11. We have plans from a scheduling standpoint for 11. So we're not going to go out and expand just for the sake of expanding. It has to fit within our strategic plan and within our structure. If there's a member institution that's interested in joining the SWAC that fits that bill, we're definitely open to listen.
We're visiting with Dr. Charles McClellan, the commissioner of the Southwestern Athletic Conference. You just mentioned plan for if it stays to 11. Let's assume that it will be 11 teams. How quickly did you develop the plan, or is it still ongoing?
Well, the plan is ongoing. What you want to do is have buy-in from everyone, including the fan. But we had to do some modeling to present to Florida A&M and to our member institutions. And when I say modeling, we did not give them a formal plan. We talked about it verbally. And it basically hinges around options of being able to have an 11th team. You know, you can maintain divisions, you can have uneven divisions, you could float teams, have 6 teams in the East in 2021 and 5 teams in the West in 2022, switch and have 6 teams in the West. That's not necessarily a solid option. Probably something that has gotten the most traction is similar to what the Big 12 does. Have divisional play without having division. So make sure everybody that's east of the Mississippi, you play. Everybody west of the Mississippi, they play. Because we have an 8-game schedule, there will be 5 teams that will play in the East, so you'll have 3 crossover games in the West. Maintaining our 8-game schedule format, and then just pick the top 2 teams to go to the championship. So from a geographical standpoint, make sure teams in the East play the teams that are closest to them with 3 crossover games to the West, vice versa from the West to the East, and then just pick the top 2 teams. People talk about a repeat championship. We've all, our last 2 championship games have been repeat, but you'll look at what, again, happened in the Big 12 where Baylor played Oklahoma last game of the season and then turned back around and played them in the championship game. So there are different models out there. We've put together a committee led by Jennifer Williams, the athletic director at Alabama State. We're going to have the coaches committees of each group be able to study it so they can have input, including bringing in the coaches from Florida A&M. And we want this to be a collaborative process. But again, we have models, and we'll present those, and we'll allow every level, every step to have input on what's going to be best for us to move forward.
Visiting with Dr. Charles McClellan, the commissioner of the Southwestern Athletic Conference, and Dr. McClellan, I know you have another event that you have to partake in. Let me move quickly then. SWAC Media Day. I had a question about that from someone. Will that be something that will happen this year, and will it be virtual if you do have a SWAC Media Day?
Yes, we will have a media day, and it will be virtual. I think we were eyeing the 13th or 14th of July, and talking to Andrew, our assistant commissioner for media relations, he's gotten with each campus and their SIDs, and they've agreed on a later date in July. I'm not quite sure the exact date. He will be making that public announcement. But we will be having Media Day. It's going to follow the same format that we had last year. We'll be having hosts as we did last year. And the only difference would be it'll be on our social media platform versus live. So Assistant Commissioner Roberts will be putting that information out shortly so everybody can get prepared for it.
Dr. McClellan, I have a question.
Yes.
From a listener, and he says, ask if a school like Southeastern Louisiana would like to join. Would that be acceptable? Or would that be accepted?
Well, I think that we would go back to our principles. We want schools similar to our schools from an academic standpoint, from a competitive standpoint, and from a geographical standpoint. And any school that meets that criteria, we would be interested in looking at. If they do not meet that criteria, then they would not be someone that we would look at. So, again, we want similar schools to match what we do. We think what we do is unique, and we want to maintain that uniqueness. So as long as a member institution fits, our criteria from a standpoint of geographical location, same academic mission, and from a competitive standpoint fits within our competitive model, we'll take a look at them.
Has to be a good fit, in other words.
Absolutely.
Partnership. And speaking of that, the conference announced a partnership with the United States Air Force beginning in fall 2020. Has to be good news, of course. Working hard, as always, the conference trying to always establish relationships.
Yeah, we're very excited about it. The U.S. Air Force has stepped up and partnered with the Southwestern Athletic Conference to develop our esports program. This is the first step, hopefully, of many steps. Our ultimate goal is to have it institutionalized at all 11. And Carlos, I got to get used to saying 11. I've been saying 10 for so long. I understand 11, yeah, but all 11 of our member institutions where we can develop our own esports program and our esports academic program. So we're looking at creating esports teams on each of the 11 member institutions and develop some esports academic programs. You know, a friend of your program, Dr. Kenyatta Convell, he's going to be teaming up with us as well to assist us in developing that academic criteria. But we are ecstatic that the Air Force has stepped up and assisted us in this endeavor.
This is Dr. Charles McClellan, the commissioner of the Southwestern Athletic Conference. Wow. Just a fast-paced time in the conference. Of course, Dr. McClellan, the pandemic, the last time we had talked to you, the pandemic was just basically at the beginning, and a lot of people didn't know about it. As a conference, I know you're in dialogue with the directors of athletics in the conference. What is the plan going forward as far as continuing the dialogue with the ADs, and will the season, fall sports, football, et cetera, will it go on as planned, or is there other models to be used if it doesn't?
Yeah, definitely there are other models. I cannot predict whether it's going to start as planned. Only COVID-19 and the scientists at this point to discover a vaccine for COVID-19 can answer that question. There are multiple models. Our model starts with opening up, first week. We're saying Labor Day, but there's some legislation out there that could push that back a couple of weeks. But opening up whenever the season starts and finishing up as we normally do, we have plans within the Southwestern Athletic Conference that will start our season all the way into the third week of October. We could get a shortened season in starting the third week of October. That's our last drop dead date. That would allow us to get a season in with 6 conference games, along with a championship and celebration bowl. We even have modeled starting in the spring, although there's not a lot of support nationally for that within the conference. We have that model, and again, to be able to start in the spring, it will take NCAA legislation. I don't think we get there unless everybody goes there, but we do have various models, and we're going to continue to do that. We're going to continue to talk to the ADs, SWAs, presidents, commissioners. All 32 commissioners in America get together. We get together 3 times a week. We talk to the NCAA, chief medical officer, the CDC individuals, and communication with them. They pass the information along with us. So there's a lot of conversation. There's a lot of synergy. There's a lot of collaboration to get the season started. And as of right now, we're moving forward. COVID-19 could have change of plans, but we will model to be able to adjust depending on what happens with the pandemic.
Well, Dr. McClellan, I know you have a prior engagement you have to get to, so I'll just end it right here. But let's see if we can schedule another time where we can talk a little bit further.
Sounds good, and I apologize, Carlos. In this time with FAMU and everything that's going on, the interviews have been rampant, but I wanted to let you know how important you are to me. You've been with me ever since my Prairie View days. You've been a supporter of me, and I want to make sure that you and your listeners understand I will always have time for the Carlos Brown Show.
Well, I appreciate it, and you continue to be safe, and let's talk again real soon.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Charles McClellan, the commissioner of the Southwestern Athletic Conference, just joined us for a brief conversation, tried to kind of hit some of the points, couldn't hit everything. that I wanted to discuss. But hey, that's the way it goes sometime. And yeah, he has been a busy guy. But if you're just tuning in, I want to reiterate once again, and I have put in the call to Coach Banks, but I'm sure he's a busy man as well. The Bayou Classic will not be held in New Orleans 2020 and possibly 2021. Also, Coach Banks has stated there are 3 options for 2020. A.W. Mumford Stadium, campus of Southern University, Independence Stadium in Shreveport, Louisiana, and possibly talking with LSU, Tiger Stadium in Baton Rouge, which seats well over 90,000. Those are alternatives to play the Bayou Classic. And at this point, if you can kind of gather for the last month or so, nothing's etched in stone. This thing changes daily. So, the Bayou Classic won't be in New Orleans for this football season and possibly 2021. What do you think about that? Yeah, social distancing or social isolation is what I said. That will be implemented at games if it gets that 4. You remember I talked to Coach Banks a couple of weeks ago. The normal game day experience won't be normal. I've talked to several of you who are still thinking, well, no tailgating. Well, that's what Coach Banks said. But now at other schools, if you think you can do it and people can govern themselves with that, go right ahead. But all I'm saying is, this is just not normal times. Just not normal. I'll take a time out. When I come back, I'll visit with Coach Carl Reed Jr. I'm going to read his statement, what he posted on Facebook. And then we'll be joined by Coach Carl Reed Jr. He's the head football coach at Lutheran North Middle High School. Akil Glass, he coached him, Alabama A&M's quarterback. He'll join me next. You're listening to the Carlos Brown Show on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com.
I present to you 3 of the fiercest subjects ever assembled in the cage of doom. First, the brain-wrenching behemoth, Algebra 2, weighing in at a mind-boggling 800 pounds. Foreign languages! The multilingual international sensation capable of tossing you clear across the Atlantic. And finally, biology. More ferocious than formaldehyde, she'll dissect you 1 chromosome at a time. Who among you will step up to their challenge?
Yeah, I'll do it. Me too. I'm in. Sign me up.
Take on the tough classes now. You need them to prepare for college. Find out which classes you need at knowhowtogo.org.
Brought to you by the American Council on Education, Lumina Foundation for Education, and the Ad Council.
One voice. It can get the point across, but it only carries so far. Add a voice. It's richer, louder, but that has limits too. Add a third voice. It's even more powerful. Add another, and another, and many, many more. And we are stronger than ever. That's the power of a community coalition. They help community groups, faith groups, civic organizations, PTAs, employers, and many others in your community organize their resources and focus them where they're needed most, like fighting to keep kids away from drugs. Ask a group that you belong to if they should belong to a community coalition. It's easy to get involved. Visit helpyourcommunity.org and they'll tell you exactly how your group can help. That's helpyourcommunity.org, because you get more when we get together. Brought to you by the Office of National Drug Control Policy and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to this week's edition of the Coles Brown Show, heard exclusively right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com. My next guest, I want to read his statement that I was able to see on Facebook, and I'm going to read it. Bear with me. HBCU coaches, my name is Carl Reed Jr. I am the head football coach at Lutheran North High School in St. Louis, Missouri. My former quarterback, Akil Glass, is the starting quarterback at Alabama A&M. Oh, yeah, we know that. Lincoln University recently signed one of my running backs. Other than those two instances, none of my players have ever been offered by an HBCU. I have players playing at Oklahoma, Mizzou, Minnesota, Arkansas State, South Dakota, Western Michigan, to name just a few. Only 2 HBCUs have visited our school in the last 5 years. Our doors are always open for you to recruit our players. Coach Reed Jr. Coach, good morning to you, sir.
Good morning. Good morning.
How you doing?
I'm doing good. I can't complain.
Yeah, it won't do any good anyway. That statement I just read, and then at the end, our doors are always open for you to recruit our players. First and foremost, a little bit of background about you and your high school that you coach at, Lutheran North High School.
Well, we won the state championship this past season. We one of the premier programs in the country. A lot of good players. Steve Atwater is an alum of our school. He's going into the Hall of Fame this year. As most people know, Jim Crane, the owner of the Houston Astros, is an alum. Very well attended and program that has had a lot of success over the years.
And Akil Glass.
Yeah. At
Alabama A&M, of course, got a chance to coach him, and many of us have seen firsthand just a tremendous player that he is at Alabama A&M. His recruitment, if you could, talk about that.
Well, Akil, he was outstanding for us. He was first-team All-State quarterback, broke a lot of records in the school history when he was playing here in high school. We lost a rough one in the quarterfinals before he came out. But he was committed to FIU, Florida International, to play for head coach Ron Turner, who we had a great relationship with. Ron Turner got fired, and so he picked up several offers from FCS schools, Missouri State, SIU, Carbondale, things like that. And from there, a really good friend of mine, one of my frat brothers, Marlon Watson, was doing the recruiting coordinating there for Alabama A&M, and he called me for Akil, and it was really a no-brainer for us to send him to a HBCU once that opportunity presented itself.
Right. Well, Coach, now to the statement that I read, you put that out on Facebook and I guess other social media platforms. The reason why you're concerned that HBCUs they're missing out by not coming in, and you want to have a better relationship with HBCUs, is that's the meaning behind all of this?
Well, I'm not concerned at all. That's not the right word. What I am is, with everything that's been going on in the country, there's been a movement, so to speak, or you see a lot of people from our communities that are suggesting that kids should be going to HBCUs and not the predominantly white institutions. And what coaches like myself are saying is, we okay with getting behind a movement like that, but you have to recruit the kids. If the kid is getting recruited by the white universities very aggressively, and you're not recruiting him at all at the HBCU, well, then HBCU is not going to be an option for that kid. And so what we're saying is we opening our doors for you to come in and recruit and build those relationships. But in my position as the high school coach, the only thing that I can do is present the information and then give a kid my best advice based on the options that he has.
Right. You nailed that one. Concern now, not concern, trying to help out. And you're right, in light of what's going on in the country. As far as you see them moving about, hey, give HBCUs a try. Some of 4 or 5-star athletes in multiple sports coming to HBCUs. On your team, any parents or any connections of your players and parents to HBCUs?
No, we just in a predominantly black community. Now, Aquil Glassbaum went to Howard, so he was familiar, with HBCUs. But for the most part, no, we don't have many of those connections with the parents, and really those don't matter. They don't have no connections to some of the other schools they going to either. It's just a matter of the best fit, and I think that you have to also compare apples to apples, right? Mm-hmm. Like, you can't say, go to a HBCU or go to Alabama or LSU or Clemson. That's not fair, right? You're not comparing apples to apples. HBCUs are FCS and Division II schools. So you have to be, you can't compare a school in the SWAC to a school in the SEC. That's not a fair comparison. It's not fair to the HBCU, and it's not fair to put the kid in that type of situation. But the North Dakota States of the world, the schools that are consistently winning championships at the FCS and the Division II level, HBCU should be beating them out for those players every time.
We're visiting with Coach Carl Reed Jr., head football coach at Lutheran North High School in St. Louis, Missouri. Now, earlier you stated won the championships. How does the team program look for, if you can say it, this fall? Expectations are still high?
It's state championship or bust every year. That expectation won't change. We don't multiply, so it's those things, the names change, but the game remains the same.
Now, and I understand that, and that's great. That's great. As far as your program and what it's done, how about players, if you could, or position that you could talk about that will be highly recruited this year, or if you can't say their names, position.
Well, Travion Ford, we have one of the top DNs in the country. He already committed to the University of Missouri. So he's in this class. He's the biggest one. And we have kids like Terrence Fuller and Jarrell Carter that are starting to search through their options and things like that. Alabama A&M actually just offered both of them yesterday. So we're getting that done and that taken care of. And then my class of 22 class, my guys that are going to be juniors, that class from top to bottom is one of the very best in the country.
Now, in the state, you play in the highest classification, or
we play in Class 3, so we'll be in Class 3 this year, and it's 6th class.
Okay. Boy, now, Coach, I'm a Southern grad. I'm trying to send some information, but it's not just about Southern. HBCUs in general, to get in and, get players no matter what sport. I know you coach, of course, football, but other sports at the school, have they had the same success?
Well, track, we've been very dominant in track. We've had a good basketball program, and they knocking on the door of being the state level program. We just hired a new excellent coach a year ago, and he's already, made some huge strides. I just think that for us here, it has to be in a city like St. Louis or any of the major metropolitan areas that have a heavy population of African Americans, blacks, whatever term you like to use. We need a HBCU presence recruiting our kids because a lot of them want that as an option and they ask about it all the time. And so we, like I said in the beginning, we're willing to participate. We're willing to be a part of it. And we hope that gets going.
Yeah, well, Coach, the next time I talk to you, I hope to have some information from you that say that, hey, we've heard, from some HBCUs, and just from the outside looking in, it is a wonderful opportunity, and there's hopefully some other coaches and some institutions will take advantage of the opportunity. You know what I mean?
No question. We hope so too.
Yeah. Well, Coach, appreciate the time coming on the show. Hopefully, we'll have some much better news as far as relationship with HBCUs. But you've heard it, audience. Contact your individual institutions to tell them there is a program in St. Louis, Missouri that's doing well. Lutheran North Middle High School. I don't think you'll be disappointed. Coach, have a great weekend. And once again, we appreciate the time. We'll talk again real soon.
All right. Thank you, guys.
All righty. That was Coach Carl Reed Jr., head football coach at Lutheran North High School. But you kind of get what's going on. There's the opportunities there. And Dr. Prince, you're a native of St. Louis. What do you think? What did you think about what he was saying?
Well, I've always been a firm believer that if any schools should be taking advantage of the Midwest opportunities, when I'm thinking Midwest, I'm thinking St. Louis, Chicago areas would be your Mississippi schools, in particular of a Valley and Pine Bluff. I know Pine Bluff is in Arkansas, but I'm just saying take advantage of those schools because of, the distance. They're closer to those schools. There's a lot of talent there. And believe it or not, you could really change and save some of these young men and women's lives with an opportunity to go to an HBCU, get an education, play some Division I ball or Division II ball, but to change their environment, to have them see the options that lie ahead of them. And I'm a living example that one of the reasons that I have such a love for Prairie View in this conference, it saved my life, man. I grew up in St. Louis. I don't, talk a lot about it, but it wasn't the friendliest of neighborhoods, but God's grace kept us. And it was only until I had the opportunity through the athletic talents and gifts that God blessed me with that I saw I had a plethora of options, and I was able to take advantage of them and help mold and shape me to who I am today. So I hear his echoes all loud and clear. And Lutheran North is not the only school that has some budding student athletes that can help impact some SWAC schools, some MEAC schools. He made mention of Lincoln University. Lincoln University is a small campus. I would compare it to the size of maybe Mississippi Valley. They are the Blue Tigers. As a matter of fact, Stephen, I forget his last name, but he used to coach at Albany. He's there. Stephen Jackson, I want to say. But anyway, they do a decent job. They're financially challenged. And sometimes, let's be honest, kids don't feel like they've arrived if they go to a small school in state. So the opportunity for them to go to a small school out of state, what happens to have an HBCU label on it, it gives them a sense of arrival, importance, of significance. And I think it's a golden opportunity, man, for these guys to really, really look toward the Southwestern Athletic Conference and them to start looking northbound.
Yeah, you heard he said Maynard, already established a relationship with the school. Maynard's already in there. And he did tell me earlier this week when I first reached out to him that University of Arkansas Pine Bluff has contacted, them, because he said he knew somebody on the new staff. But the door is open. Just in the last few minutes, people have texted me and saying, come on, we need to get this information to Southern coaches. Now, all you can do is provide the information, right? Put them in a position to make contact. But boy, it just, it seems to be an opportunity. And as I'm listening to him, my mind kind of went to the Gateway Classic. And some of those games that they had, some of those games, quite a few games during that time in St. Louis, which HBCUs participated, of course.
Right. So, and I think part of the apprehension is a lot of the native schools of the conference, they get a lot of pressure about recruit local. Mm-hmm. And when you go that far north, people get apprehensive. They be like, well, why would you go get that guy and we got this guy here? I experienced that personally, being out of state, your fees were a little bit more. They were, well, couldn't we have just gotten one or two more guys here locally than to expend all this toward one guy? So you get some haters from that angle on it as well. But a ball player or good student athlete can help impact your program. No risk, no reward.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I'm going to follow up on that story, but I was on Facebook and I saw his post, and I said, let me contact him and contact him. Heard right back from him, and he, just think an opportunity. He told me, he said, no, it's not a concern. I'm just. That's the way I worded the question.
Yeah, that was I like that. That was a St. Louis reply. I like that. I kind of chuckled.
Yeah, I know. Knew you would. You, Charles Edmond, Kerrick Jackson.
Yes, sir.
St. Louis
Assassins. St. Louis Assassins.
Yeah, but guess what? Each one of you have a different personality, a mentality.
I'm almost afraid to ask you what those are.
No, don't ask. Don't ask. I don't want to seem like this. Oh, that was a knuckle curve out of the repertoire pitching. 10:53 Central Standard Time. Let's see. We've got some text messages. Let's see. Can we get an update on which SWAC schools have allowed their athletes access to their campus yet? Full update on that. I know Southern talked about in July. Grambling State. I think you had Coach Ponton on a little bit later than me. Is Grambling State? They're coming back in June, or is it July?
It was stated for July. Well, they said June, but then they was trying to push it back to July. And especially with all this outbreak with University of Houston, and all, what's that, Mississippi State. Those songs, take your time, do it right, man. Take your time, do it right.
Well, had a local host on a local show here in Baton Rouge said, and I quote, "It's better to have them on campus. So if something happens, the university is in a better position to take care of them in quarantine situation."
Okay.
I could go somewhere with that one, but I'm not.
We won't.
I want to keep it clean.
We won't.
Also, a listener, Jack, says, if social distancing is still an issue at the time, then it appears logical that the bigger the stadium, the more people who can get in the facility. It doesn't make sense to play in a small stadium if you're limited by social distancing. And I refer back to Coach Banks, who basically said, and I quote, season book holders, they'll have first option. Now, Mumford sees 28,500, give or take. He talked about season book holders. Let's say, I know in the best of years, it was up to, I think, 8,000, 9,000. as of late, probably more in the 5,000 range. In other words, he said they would have first dibs at, in the stadium. So if you look at all the teams in the conference, I mean, I don't have their actual numbers of season ticket holders, book holders, right off the bat, but you're looking at probably under 5,000 for everybody.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt.
And so and you could hear in Coach Bain's voice, he was concerned because, everyone talks about, well, it's too big not to play. But again, you're talking about those Power Five and those elite teams. You know how it's going to affect FCS and smaller and institutions in our conference. But so be it. They are still scheduled to play. But it's not going to be the normal situation that you're accustomed to having. He even talked about tailgating and the lack of it. It's just every day the plan could change. It could really change. Coming up in hour number 2, Coach Pettaway will join me, and I'll get his thoughts because I wasn't able to talk to him last week about FAMU moving into the conference in 2021. And I guess I'll ask him also from on a basketball perspective, because if you do a quick look, FAMU football, pretty good, I would say. Baseball, they won some championships. Their track and field. Volleyball. So it's a good fit. But it was interesting in hour number 1, Dr. McClellan talked about, keeping it. If it's at 11 institutions in the conference, they have a plan for that with divisions, without the Big 12 model. And then there is a possibility that you could have, say, if Southern and Grambling plays the original date, the scheduled date, there's a possibility they could be playing in the SWAC championship. Back to back. Then they're going to have tie-breaking scenarios, I'm sure, if they go to the Big 12 model. Then I thought I did hear him say they have models where they still will keep divisions. But he did say it was ongoing. So we will see. Ideally, in my humble opinion, in the perfect world, a 12th institution would be great. But then, the speculation with that. Who do you get? Will it be a good fit? Tennessee State has been talked about so much. That's the name you hear. Bethune-Cookman. But everybody has challenges. So I guess it's best to just wait, sit back, and see how all this unfolds. Because you'll go mad trying to think about all the different scenarios because they're still out there. But one thing that we do know, FAMU hits it in 2021. That's going to be interesting. Someone just sent me a message about the Bayou Classic. Let's see if I can pull it up. Yeah, but 2020 Bayou Classic will not be in New Orleans, and possibly 2021. Someone just asked me about why would they make a decision of 2021. They can understand 2020, but Coach Banks said possibly 2021. And the places they're talking about playing, A.W. Mumford Stadium, Southern is the home team this year. Shreveport, Independence Stadium, and possibly talking with LSU, Tiger Stadium. Wow. I know some people are not going to like that.
Mm-hmm. It'll be closer for you guys. Be almost like a home game.
Yeah, but if how this thing is, how's it going, what direction, $25,000 might be I don't know. 25,000. Will you even get that
right
many people in?
Well,
so then it's about your class.
I wanted to try to answer your listeners' question or concern about why so early about 2022. There's a twofold message behind it, actually threefold. We knew that New Orleans had an extreme high case of the virus that came out. There has not been a cure yet, and no one knows when this thing is going to really come to a head. So you might as well plan for the worst, and you can always reverse and come back so you can secure places for that. So that's more than likely why they put that on the 21-22 schedule as well.
An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure.
Amen, brother.
Mo Carter, thanks. Spoke to Coach Maynard early in the week, and he said that his guys are slated to return in mid-July. So basically what I'm hearing is it's July.
Right.
Pending approval from the administration. Thanks, Mo. Yeah. Well, but I'm telling you, it's like, July. How about August? And Dr. McClellan said they have different models where you come back later, playing a conference-only schedule. Will they start on time? He did say it doesn't seem like there's a momentum to push the season back further. But, when I was talking to Coach Banks a couple of weeks ago, I got the idea that he would love to see it pushed back to the spring. But I don't think that's going to happen either. We're in for a interesting situation. Listener says the Bayou Classic was not played in New Orleans. Remember 2005? Yeah, Katrina. Played in Houston. But guess what? There's no place like home. I had a Bayou Classic. All right, Donald. Hello, did you hear AD Coach Banks say the Bayou Classic will not be in New Orleans? Yep, 2020, 2021. Looking at Shreveport or maybe home and home. Well, I didn't hear about home and home. I heard Baton Rouge. But then I guess in 2021, technically, if you did a home and home, then it would be Robinson Stadium. He says Bayou Classic LSU would be a more home for Grambling. Grambling folks are all over those small towns around Baton Rouge. Okay, Donald, you believe that one? Now, they are Grambling fans, alums in Baton Rouge now, no doubt about that, and surrounding areas. But call me arrogant. I think Southern would have more fans, just like you see in New Orleans. Take a quick time out. When I come back, I'll visit with Coach Van Pettaway. He'll join me next. You're listening to the Carlos Brown Show on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com.
Hello, this is Alonzo Hardy Jr., the president of the SWAC Alumni Association. The SWAC Alumni Association is an organization founded on December 10, 1999, at the Sheraton Hotel in Birmingham, Alabama. Its mission is to serve as a rallying ground for individuals who have made the Southwestern Athletic Conference the illustrious conference that it is today. Its membership is open to former student athletes who played in the conference in any sport, as well as to coaches, athletic administrators, staff members, game officials, and fans. Annually, the association holds a Legends Awards and Roast Banquet or luncheon where it honors individuals with Lifetime Achievement Awards, a Chuck Prophet Wagon Master Award, and occasionally a Distinguished Service Award. Proceeds from that event help to finance degree completion scholarships for student athletes who have exhausted their playing eligibility at SWAC universities, but who may still need an extra semester or two to complete their college studies. For more information on the SWAC Alumni Association or to get information on becoming a member, you can send correspondence to SWAC Alumni Association, 875 Miller Creek Lane, Newport News, Virginia, 23602. The email address is SWAC Alumni Association @yahoo.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, in the next 7 years of bigger and bigger enrollments, America's grade schools will need nearly 250,000 extra teachers besides those to fill normal vacancies. This great need, plus the growing public interest in education and improvements in schools, make elementary school teaching a more rewarding career than ever, a career that high school and college students should certainly consider. Education holds America's future, perhaps your future.
As a dad, you'll probably spend years teaching your son how to hit a baseball, how to throw a tight spiral and hit a receiver, how to spring off a diving board and hit the water, how to hit a 1-wood and a 9-iron, how to hit the bullseye, how to hit the strike zone, hit a jump shot, hit the open man, hit the hockey net, and maybe the most challenging of all, how to hit the books. But the question is this: how much time will you spend teaching him what not to hit? Teach your son early and often that all violence against women is wrong. For tips on what to say, visit endabuse.org. Brought to you by the Family Violence Prevention Fund, the Waite Institute for Violence Prevention, the Ad Council, and this station.
Welcome back to this week's edition of the Carlos Brown Show, heard exclusively right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com. He's the Carlos Brown Show's basketball analyst, but also sports analyst as well. And boy, I've got to get in some negotiation, I believe, because, you know, hey, somebody could come and swoop him away if I'm not careful. Coach Van Pettaway. Good morning, Coach.
Hey, good morning, Carlos. How are you guys doing?
Well, I'm doing all right. Dr. Prince is behaving, and I'm behaving so far. But other than that, hey, we're thankful to be alive.
There you go. Know that Dr. Prince is behaving because that to me that means that you've been pretty good this morning if he's behaving.
You're absolutely right about that, Coach. Know who the instigator is, and you'll always be all right.
Yeah, he's right. Although it's still a little less than an hour to go. Things could change, but I promise to behave for the most part.
Yep.
And see, the key word was for the most part.
Gotcha.
Well, we didn't talk last week, but want to get your thoughts on Florida A&M. Strike the Rattlers in the Southwestern Athletic Conference starting in 2021. From a basketball standpoint and football and all sports, it seems to be a outstanding fit. What are your thoughts?
I think it's a win-win situation for the SWAC. I'm very familiar with Florida A&M. As a student at Alabama A&M, they were in a conference with us, and so I was used to making that trip to Tallahassee. And then once I got into coaching, I might be the last SWAC school to play Florida A&M. We played them during the 2002-2003 season, and it's a very memorable game because we lost in double overtime. Oh, yes, 91-89. I will not forget it. Yeah, will not forget it. 91-89, okay? 2 overtimes. Yeah. I do remember shaking Coach Gillespie's hand and said, I can't wait to see you in Huntsville. And most of the time, if I tell you that as a coach, we're going to have a very special plan for you when you get there. But unfortunately for him, fortunately for him, his school refused to honor the contract and come to Huntsville the next year. And I had to get my athletic director involved, who was Jim Martin at the time, and he wanted a pass on it because he was trying to get the Rattlers on the football schedule. So he didn't want me to enforce the $10,000 loss for them not returning the home game. But FAMU, they go way back with us. I can remember when, as a player, A.J. Triplett was the coach at basketball coach at FAMU, and he had a great player, Clement Johnson, who played in the NBA for about 12 years, 6'11".
Oh, yeah.
Man, he was a war dog. I remember him. He dunked at A&M so hard, they had to stop the game coming back down the floor because the basket was still shaking. It was still vibrating. He was a great basketball player, and I really enjoyed watching him play. And then neither did I know at that time as a student, I'm meeting Coach Triplett, who would later I would coach against him. And he and we remain friends to this day. Coach Triplett was a great coach down there at FAMU. Then he ended up at Morris Brown. So I've got a lot of connections with FAMU, and the biggest one is this. FAMU was one of the first schools outside of Alabama A&M to offer me a coaching job as the basketball coach. I've got that contract. I tried to see if my wife could find it for me. They sent me a contract to be their basketball coach, and at the same time, I was interviewing for North Carolina A&T. And being the young person that I was not familiar with all of the technology that was going on at the time. I told the people at FAMU that I was happy at Alabama A&M, not knowing that the media was going to pick that up in North Carolina, where I was interviewing for A&T. So they took that as me not being interested in them also. But that was not the case. I wanted to take the A&T job, but I just didn't want to go to FAMU. And they were in the same conference, and I guess they were keeping up with what each other was doing. And so on that particular weekend, I messed myself up by just saying that I was happy at Alabama A&M. But they're going to be a great fit. Basketball, they got that new arena down there, and they played well last year. The coach that's there now, he's known around the SWAC. A lot of us know him. He does a pretty good job, and he had them right in the mix last year in terms of basketball. So they're going to come in, and I know their football team has always been their staple, and so they're going to be playing strong. And then if you can't forget about their track program. I don't know if it's gone down. They used to have a pretty good track program along with baseball.
Yeah.
So I think it's a great fit.
And we talked to Dr. McClellan, talked to him in hour number 1. He talked about the fit for FAMU coming in the conference. It was a good fit. The SWAC didn't seek out FAMU per se. FAMU kind of was looking for a move, and it turned out to be an outstanding fit. Now, a lot of the conversation also has been on social media within people talking about could there be a 12th team? But I get the impression that it is not something that the SWAC conference is going to rush.
Well, they don't have to. They don't have to rush into it because I know you can get. There are different models for an odd number of teams in the league, but it's easier when you have an even number. And I know if they were to bring on another school, then some of the present teams, some of them will have to be shifted around because you know that FAMU is coming in on the East, and if they add another team on the East, that means somebody who's presently on the East would have to shift to the West. And if I had to put my money on it, it'd probably be somebody like Jackson State would have to move over. Jackson or Alcorn, I would think, because they're the ones that would have to, I think, go to the other side. But you never know. And with Dr. McClellan, he's got a bright mind, and I know he's going to put a lot of thought into this, and they'll make the right decisions.
Yeah, and talking about that, if they were to move someone, I mean, from a geographical standpoint, Alcorn. And matter of fact, Coach Pettaway was an Alcorn alum. Text messaged me and said, "I know you wouldn't like that move." Yes, I would. See, and you know why? Because it goes back to football, I'm sure. But you know what? To be the man, you got to beat the man. If we can use that cliche. I heard that from somewhere. So, you can't run from, and not saying that people are running from competition, but I think when someone's have the ups on you, you would want to compete with them and try to change that around. You get my drift?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, because as a fan, you want to see Alcorn out the way, because then you think you all might have a chance at it.
No, I want Alcorn. I would want Alcorn in the West.
I didn't hear you getting sassy with that one, Carlos. You didn't get sassy with him on that one. Now, if that was me, you'd have been getting sassy.
Oh no! I want Alcorn in the West. That's the fan part speaking.
No, but see, Coach is saying you want them in the West, so you don't, so they'll get out your way. You can't beat them. You might well join them.
No. Put them in the West, please do.
No, that's what I'm saying. You want them in the West, so you don't have to face them at the championship game. That's what he's saying.
You're just trying to start something.
No, that was Coach just said that. I didn't say that. Coach said that. Coach, would you explain what you just told him? Explain it, Coach.
You've got to face Alcorn State regardless, whether it's in the championship or if they're in your division. Correct?
Right, but at least you would get it out of the way early. If you're on the same side, you may not ever see the championship game.
Well, I could, Coach Penway, I could go somewhere with that. Well, we're talking about football, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's the only thing that's really successful. But you know what? I've talked to some Alcorn Knights, and they say, Carlos, that's a good point. I want to win in other team sports as well, not just football.
It'll happen. Yeah, it takes time. It'll happen. It'll bounce back, because remember now, football and basketball, men and women, were right there together with Alcorn. So things go in cycles. So hopefully with the new coaching changes, that means that their cycle is coming up.
Yeah. Well, yeah. For the record, yeah. If they move, put them in the West. No, not Upper Deck. They put Alcorn in the West. That's a competitive nature of myself. Hey, but in the grand scheme of things, I hope at least by 2021, it's a better situation for athletics. You know what I mean? Life, student athletes.
But you know what, Carlos? Hypothetically, if you start looking at, if you wanted to add another school, a lot of people are talking about maybe Bethune-Cookman. Then that would give FAMU and Bethune as travel partners. But then you would still have to end up moving two teams to the other side. All right, if you brought Tennessee State in, that means A&M and Tennessee State could become travel partners, and then you would have Alabama State and FAMU as travel partners. But with that scenario, you still got to move two teams to the other side.
And that's why I think
I'm sorry. Yes, one.
Because
you had to move one. Yes, I'm sorry.
If Bethune were to come, of course, they would be another Eastern team, and then that Alcorn would come to the West because they're geographically closer to the Western schools.
Right. Correct. And then I think that's why I brought up Jackson State earlier too, because they're sort of like in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
So they could also be considered for the West, so for the other side.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll bring up interesting scenarios, and then I think Tennessee State is probably the program that has the right fit in terms of budget and that kind of thing. But if I'm not mistaken, Tennessee State doesn't have baseball.
No.
Right. So that
Yeah, and in Nashville, the television market, and it'll be interesting,
right?
To see how all of that fits. But if it's 11 teams, I think they're happy. Well, I know they're happy, and if it stays 11, I think they will be content with that. If it's a 12 team, Pat McCone said they'll listen to anybody. the talk.
Right.
But it's just
now in basketball, you make that one trip to Florida though. See, in basketball, if FAMU is out there by themselves, that means you're going down there just once for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Wow.
So it all comes with it's going to come with sacrifice. But I think FAMU is probably more happy than anybody because it really saves them on travel to be a part of the SWAC. Because when you look at where they had to go in the MEAC, man, they were spending a lot of money, a ton of money for all sports to compete, and it'll be real cheaper. It'll be cheaper for them to be a part of the Southwestern Athletic Conference.
And on a funny note, we're talking hour number one. Somehow, for right now, I like their fan base, cocky and arrogant.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I love it. Reminds me of somebody else.
But you know what? I know. That's what I was going to say because when we first came, when we first came in the SWAC, we thought that there was only one school in the SWAC. Because when we first became members of the SWAC, we got more noise coming from Louisiana and Baton Rouge than any other place. Yeah, they welcome us to the SWAC with open arms. They come on, we can't wait for y'all to come down here because we got something for you. So I know FAMU is coming in, and that's shaking the rafters because the Southern fans they don't want to give up their seat. They want to still be the bullies of the SWAC. I'm talking about bullies in a good way now. Bullies in a good way.
So when you were able to come down to FG Clark, and when Southern came to Elmore, when you guys won, you had that smile from ear to ear, huh? Because you probably remember those times. Yes, we did.
Because Tommy, in the meetings, Tommy was all nice and everything, but as soon as we got down there, man, it was all heck broke loose down there at Southern.
Well, they say you should know who you are. And I said that for years. And Southern fans are cocky and arrogant.
Yeah, but I like you got to have that, and I think that's what.
And they're passionate.
Correct, and it keeps the competitive juices flowing between the fan bases and the teams, and I think that's why it was that's why I really enjoyed my time in the SWAC.
Yeah, and my years of covering the conference, every institution fans are passionate.
Yep.
I've met some tremendous people that graduates or alums from other institutions in the conference, and I wouldn't change those relationships for nothing.
Yep. There you go.
Because at the end of the day, we're HBCU family, but we just
we're all in this together.
Yeah, we like to get after each other on the court or the diamond or the football field. And don't get me wrong, whenever we get to a season again, whenever it happens, that competition, that competitive nature, it will come back. It will definitely come back.
Right, and Carlos, it'll leak over into the recruiting also. The pandemic has slowed everybody down a little bit, but once this thing breaks, we as alumnus and fans, we'll get back to trying to get athletes to come to our different institutions, and me, as long as they stay in the SWAC, I'm happy.
Stay in the SWAC. Yeah. But Coach, it's going to be interesting to see a few years down the line. We'll be able to look back at this time and see what happened, and you'll be able to analyze it. And but life goes on. Athletics is a big part of of this country,
right?
Of our conference members. And when I look and I see with COVID-19, Mississippi State, they've had players to test positive. You're kind of seeing that. So I see people relaxing some, not all, relaxing about this situation, but it's still a very volatile situation.
Yeah, very volatile. That's why you got 21 states that are reporting an uptick in virus cases because people are becoming too relaxed. Some people are taking it too far. They're going back to like it used to be. I had to end up going out yesterday. You would be surprised at the number of people that are walking around with no mask on, and I don't understand that. And I just wanted to stay in my car, and I did. I left because there's too many people out there with no mask on. So I think we have to be safe. And then on the athletic side, when you look at what just happened at Houston, they didn't just say football players. They say 6 athletes in different sports tested positive. So they're shutting down their individual workouts. And all of us, all of the schools, not just the HBCUs, all of them, they got to be careful. They got to be careful with this, man, because this is a life and death situation with some of these people. Yeah, some people just get sick, but there are also people that are losing their lives with this thing. So we got to be careful. And I know that we have come up, when I say we, the conference has come up with different types of models for going back to school. Here in Huntsville, we have not heard yet from Alabama A&M as to what their plans are for the fall in terms of bringing the students back. I know the athletes aren't back yet, but we still haven't heard what they're going to do about the fall. I hope it's online. My hope is that it's online where everybody can be safe.
Well, I think, and I'll check after the show, I think with Southern it's going to be kind of a combination of online and, students back on campus.
Right. Give them that option. Yep.
Yeah. But it'll be interesting to see. And also, Coach, right when I got on the show here, Southern Coach Banks, he kind of sent out a video talking about the Bayou Class. It's not going to be held in New Orleans, but 2020 and possibly 2021. And so they're looking at options as far as, having that game either on campus, Shreveport, Independence Stadium, or in Baton Rouge, but possibly talking with LSU and to have the game there. So another situation where, hey, it's serious business.
Oh yeah. Right. So, and they're gonna pick the safest route. If the game can't be played in New Orleans, and I guess they're not playing it there because New Orleans was one of the hot spots. And if you go to a bigger place, to me LSU would be the place because you got a bigger stadium. You can get more people. You can do more social distancing in their stadium than probably anywhere else.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting situation. So hopefully I can get Coach Banks on next week to kind of talk about it and kind of give us some more in-depth information on that situation. But as always, Coach, I just tell everyone to govern themselves accordingly and continue to try to be safe, and so you can be around, for years to come.
Right. Yeah. See a lot of more games. See a lot of more people. So, caution on the side of safety. Yep. I think that's the best method.
And Coach, one last time. If that SWAC basketball tournament championship game were to be played, who did you think would be in the finals?
Woo. Well, I like what Southern has coming back. So I guess I'm not sure. I just think there are too many unknowns out of the kids that are supposed to come back. How many will actually show up? I think the prediction is going to have to wait until we find out who's on campus.
No, I'm sorry. If they were able to play in the SWAC tournament championship, if Southern and Prairie would have played, they were the two hottest teams.
If the two teams had played.
Yeah,
Well, I don't know now. I think Southern may have been the hottest team coming down the stretch now. But you got the defending champion who's not going to go out. They're not going to go out. they're not going to go out without a fight.
Yeah.
So, two consecutive conference championships and a tournament championship under their belt, it was going to be tough. It was going to be a great game. And what we ought to do is just get one of those game. What do they call it? Let them play it on virtual. Let them do it that way and see.
Or we can let the head coaches play 1-on-1.
That'd be a pretty good game now between Sean and
That's what I'm saying.
Smith now.
That's what I'm saying. Yep. Let the two coaches decide it. And Coach, I'm glad you didn't fall for that bait, man. Carlos trying to set you up on that, man.
Oh, yeah. Look, both those are my friends. I'm not going to pick against them. I'll just let the chips fall where they're going to fall.
Carlos asked me who I think would have won.
And he wants you, and I guess he doesn't want you to uphold your own school, huh?
but Coach Pettaway, you notice I've given credit where credit is due with Prairie View, with Louisiana native at the helm.
Oh, there you go. There you go. Didn't nobody know who he was till he came to Texas. At U of H and at Prairie View. So what are you talking about? Look, it's so nice. Texas been so nice to him, he don't even want to go back. That's why he go down there and beat up on y'all, then he come on back to Texas.
Gotcha.
Yeah, the fire's been lit for next year in basketball.
Yes, sir.
Yep. On men's and the women's side. Finally, Coach Trey Johnson. You remember that guy?
Yeah, Bama State. Yeah, I mean, he played at Jackson State, but he's on the staff at Alabama State.
Yeah, Coach Williams is making.
I think that's a great move. Right now, you look at there's a trend here, and it's not just in the SWAC now. These NBA guys, they're looking at the HBCUs to get their start. They're coming back. They're coming back, and they starting from the ground up. Now, in some cases, I think it'll be interesting because from the financial side, they may have the sponsors that they can bring in to help their programs. But now when it comes down to actually getting stuff done on the court, that's going to be a wait and see thing.
Coach, I got my reservations about.
Go ahead.
They're coming back to the HBCUs, but they're coming back as head coaches, and that to me that's disrespect for those who remain and work their way up. They're not going back to be head coaches at their alma maters. They're not even getting on to be coaching staffs at their alma maters. But then they want to come to our schools. They want to come to our schools and be the head dog, top dog. I think that's a bit disrespectful, personally, as a former player.
Right. Well, see, they're looking to get their start somewhere, and because they cannot go, they have to look at that. They went and played for those people. Those people won't give them a job. So they have to. They're the ones that they got to look within themselves and say, wait a minute. Now I gave these people 4 years of my life, or 5, and all I asked for was an opportunity to come back on the staff, and I can't even get that.
But then
they still got to work.
But then
they still got to work.
But that qualifies them to have no head coaching experience. Period. Not even a long tenure in coaching, and become head coaches on our schools and our platforms.
Well, it's not. I don't think it's completely right for them to do that. But that's just the way it's been. That model hasn't changed, and it's not just going to change today. It's always been that way where our people have looked at the players and people that worked at the majority schools as being a step above the rest of us. That's always been that way. They've always looked at that.
I understand that. And it's just like with the University of Texas football players making these lists of demands and commands.
Right.
You knew those things were there before you agreed to go there. So why would you want to go and participate with something like that when you know how they're looking at you, and then you overlook your homebound HBCU opportunities? That's what I don't understand. That's what frustrates me.
But Dr. Prince, what you just said is part of the strategy in recruiting also. one of the best players that ever came to Alabama A&M. That's how I got him. I got him because of Southern Miss was recruiting him along with me at Alabama A&M. And I just went to his mama. I said, Mama, let me ask you something. I said, 15 years ago, you couldn't even walk downtown in Hattiesburg without people looking at you wrong. Why would you allow your son to go there when he can come to Alabama A&M and be around the same people that he grew up with, the same kind of people that he grew up with? That's what swayed them for me to get
a selling point.
Right, that's how I got the young man to come to Alabama A&M, because his parents did realize that. You sending your son out to the state of Mississippi where 15 to 20 years ago you weren't even welcome to walk down the streets. So they use that as a recruiting tool. Some of the parents will go for it, but right now in Division I athletics on the power side, there's so much money going around that it's parents not even looking at that now. Because they see dollar signs. Well, we feel that our son will have a better opportunity to make it on the next level if he's at one of the power schools versus coming to a HBCU.
If he has talent, he'll make it playing NAIA if he's got talent.
And that's what you have to sell them on. That's what you have to show them. You have to give them examples of people who have done that. See, all of that's got to be part of your recruit. You got to be able to you got to think quick on your feet. And you got to be able to show them parents just what you just said. If the talent is there, in this day and time, it doesn't matter where you play. If you're looking at him or her after their time in college.
And then I'm sorry, but
with all that said, that's great. I agree 100%. But there are going to be some, it won't matter to them. I've seen whole discussions on social media about, and let me set the scenario. A husband and wife, they have a son. She went to HBCU, right? Husband went to a PWI.
Mm-hmm.
Coached on the high school level. Coached on the PWI level and HBCU. With all of that information and the mindset, do you know those parents still said, and I quote, "Y'all make good points. I understand that. But for him to get in a position to make it on the next level, he's got to go to a PWI." And see, with that mindset,
yep,
you can preach, cuss, fuss, pray, walk.
Yep.
That mindset will not change for them. So you know what? I would just easily move from there. Now, I know the spirit of the nation now in our communities. Go back. Come to HBCU. Because some can't go back because they've never been. And I applaud that. But we're not going to be able to save people who don't have that same mindset.
Right.
They're still going to choose to go elsewhere. And if they do, so be it. So I understand what y'all saying. I applaud that. But don't waste your time on people's mindset that still not going to change.
So let me ask you this, Carlos. Let me ask you this then. If that's that person's mindset and they go there and get used, abused, and neglected, then should we take them back with open arms?
I wouldn't. You could come. I'll be like Doug Williams said. You transferring in. There's a reason you're transferring, trying to come to Grambling State University. Now, I can only promise you this: you can try out for the team, but I'm not guaranteeing you will make it. And just because you came from quote unquote University of Florida, doesn't mean you can come in and start. So to answer your question, what you could come to school. I may not necessarily need you for on the team.
Well, that's what I'm saying. And some of these kids will go and be second, third, fourth team, a dummy player, rather than to come and give their talents and get a quality education because it sounds better that they went to a certain school.
Right. And trust me, as a coach, I have seen all of that. I've seen both sides of that. And that's the dilemma. And there's some coaches, like my philosophy was, if I recruited you and you went somewhere else, it depends on how you were during the recruiting process. If you turn your nose up at me during the recruiting process, you will not transfer back to me. But now, if you were one of those kids that, hey, we were there all along and everything was nice, yeah, I would look at that kid and bringing him in if he went off and found out that the grass was not green on the other side. So, see, that's the way I did that with transfers that I recruited and lost. But you got some parents out there, it's just like what you said, Carlos, no matter what you lay out on that table, you can talk. See, we talked about graduation rates. I said, okay, let's put my graduation rates up against where you going. My kids are graduating. So I'm like, Mama, what are you going to do if he does not graduate? What's going to happen then? He doesn't graduate from that school, nor does he make it to the NBA. What then? At least if he comes here, my record shows that we are graduating our kids. You know, so he's got an opportunity to get his education and have that degree where he can get on in life. And I always tell him, if your son is talented enough to make it on the next level, we'll help him to get there. But he has to have that talent. Yep.
That is interesting. Yeah. Some mindsets you just can't change.
Yep.
But once again, you're seeing the move now. You're seeing some of the top recruits saying, no, I'm going to consider HBCU.
Yes, sir. One of the top basketball players already said that.
Yeah. And so that's a good thing. After the motion of everything, after the spirit, I guess what I'm saying is I hope the spirit continues. Because, you know, we are sometimes a very proactive people.
Emotional.
Yep. Yeah. Right. But after the emotion is gone, will we be able to organize and keep on getting things done for our benefit? You know, that's all I'm saying. So it'll be interesting to see what happens as far as this spirit that's going on. I see it. I see it moving.
Right. And we just got to get back to our roots at the HBCUs. Mm-hmm. I know when I was at A&M coaching, we went to Detroit. I had a pipeline at Persian in Detroit. We went into Chicago. You know, I've had some of my best experiences in Chicago and some of my worst. I've had coaches that tell me, you from a black school, why are you here? My players aren't going to a black school. And now that came from a black coach that told me that. As a young assistant coach, he says, wait a minute, you from Alabama A&M. Y'all, that's a black school. Why are you here? I said, I want your players. You're not going to get my players. They're not going to a black school. So I've had that.
Yeah, yep. And I've heard that, and I've had talks with Coach Richardson, former legendary coach at Southern University, and he told me once that, you know, he recruited. He was after a recruiter. Now this guy is on the staff at the University of Memphis. He had grew up on the campus at Southern University, played at Southern Lab, went to Louisiana Tech, and he said, "Well, I recruited you, and I tried my best. If it doesn't work out, consider us. If it does." Right. And he left it at that. And see, the whole attitude, and the guy was like, okay, coach. But now this guy, his name was rumored to be in for some head openings in the football era here in the Southwestern Athletic Conference at a couple of schools. But I guess it's all of the mindset and how you react. And that story you just relayed about that coach said, what are you doing here?
Right.
You know, sometimes some of our own cannot be saved.
Right,
I know that's just brutal, but, you know, but you got to move on. But in the grand scheme of things, HBCUs, yeah, they're needed. They're still relevant. And we got to make sure we can do everything we can to keep them relevant for our kids and more.
Right. It's going to take all of us. When I say us, you know, that old saying, it takes a village to raise a child. Well, we are that village for these institutions. It's going to take us, the fans, the alumni. We've got to keep our brand out there for these up and coming student athletes, so that they'll know that that some of their places are in the HBCUs.
On that note, well said. And Coach, it's all right. You can take shots at Southern University. You deserve to do that, and you can do that. Now, Dr. Prince can too, but I gotta just watch him.
I'll accept that one. I'll accept that one, Carlos. I'll accept that one. Yeah, look, we got to watch each other. How about that? We keep each other honest.
Yeah, kind of standing an olive branch somewhat. Yeah.
but no, Carlos, I've always had great respect for Southern University.
Oh,
I remember when Coach Jobe was after Leonard White. Do you remember Leonard White that played for Southern University?
Do I?
He was one. Do you? Okay, good. Well,
I was watching him the other day when they beat Georgia Tech.
Okay, well, he was right here in our backyard. We couldn't get Leonard to come up the highway to A&M for nothing.
Wow.
It took Coach Jobe all of 2 minutes. 2 minutes to get Leonard to come in. Yeah. So you win some and you lose some. That was a great one that we lost.
And that just makes me think, boy. I wonder. No, I wonder if Southern could have came after Dr. Prince to come in. I would have a whole new attitude for Dr. Prince playing baseball at Southern instead of Prairie View.
For the record, Cato did reach out a couple of times and said, "Baby, you playing for the wrong team. You need to come over here." But I said, "I'm all right, man. I love my purple and gold. You leave me alone."
There you go.
I hear you. You're right, Dr. Prince. I'm going to have to try to get Coach Cato on. I think we did. Oh, did we end on good terms? Maybe I have to work on that one.
I would hope so.
Yeah.
I'll tell you a quick story. When I interviewed Cato, was broadcasting Prairie View Southern and went down to Southern's game. And, it's been a long time since I played. And so Chris was the SID then at the time. And
Chris Jones?
Yeah, Chris Jones. So I said, "Hey, man, I want to get Cato an interview before the game." And he said, "Yeah, go on over there to the clubhouse." So I'm getting ready to introduce myself. I said, "Coach Cato," he said, "Baby, I know who you are. I know who you are, Prince." I said, "Oh, man." I said, "Okay, then." That made my day, man.
He remembers.
Yeah,
he remembers.
Coach Ellis filled in for the SWAC Alumni Association. Eddie Robinson Jr. couldn't make it one year. The last year was in Houston. And so I'm sitting at the table with Coach Ellis, and Coach Ellis says, "Michael Prince." And I said, "Coach, you know me?" He said, "Yeah, boy, I know you," because he recruited me as well. So,
that's good.
I ain't tooting my own horn, Carlos, but I wasn't too bad a player, man. Wasn't too bad.
No, that's all right. Believe it or not, Dr. Prince, I remember. I remember.
Okay. Well,
and so that's what I mean. You just build so many relationships and friendships over the years that I just wouldn't trade.
No,
I really wouldn't.
I wouldn't have it no other way. And I think it's good to have that nice subtle animosity between one another. It's just good for the conference. It's good for radio, and it's good for friendship.
Yeah,
correct.
Because we know who has the better fight song anyway, though.
Wow. Well, I said this about a year ago on the show, and I had a coach that was listening. He said, "Well, I knew you were going to say Southern." I just happen to think it's just an outstanding
it's a good
fight song.
It's a good one.
Yeah. I mean, but I know everyone feels that way about their institution.
Yeah, and I put it somewhere around the top 11. I put it somewhere around the top 11.
Well, I'll take that.
Top 11. Okay.
You caught that right, Coach. You caught that. It's I put it somewhere in that top 11 somewhere. Yeah, it's not bad.
On that note, Coach Pettaway, take care of yourself.
I will.
Safe.
I will. And
we'll
you
talk
guys
again real soon.
Yes, sir. You all be safe.
All right.
All right.
That
bye-bye.
was Coach Van Pettaway. Enjoyed talking with him. You always get something good. And boy, we're at 11:50. We're at 11:50, 10 minutes left. Kind of recap some of the stories. I see a lot of conversation and dialogue is going on. That's great. Continue it even after the show. That's what I'm talking about. Let's see. Let's get a couple in here. Shannon Sharp talked about that all week about coming, playing at HBCU. Yeah, I did see that clip. That's a clip, but it's rather long, Dr. Prince. It's long, but that's one where people can, go and listen to on social media. With Shannon Sharp talking about that, his days at Savannah State, and again, the spirit is moving in that direction, and I hope it's here to stay.
You and I both.
Jack said,
you and I both.
Yeah, Jack says, look at Lindsey Scott Jr. situation. He went to LSU, correct, Missouri, and now Nicholls State. His father's a lawyer and a graduate from Southern University as a running back. In this recruiting situation, and I've had the opportunity to talk to many from former coaches now, and that recruiting is a tough situation. I attempted to, early in hour number one, the reason to get Coach Carl Reed Jr. on. I'm getting some feedback on that one. The opportunity to get student athletes who want to come to HBCUs and establishing relationships. But back to the recruiting, from Coach Richardson to Coach Kadar, they've often stated to me that sometimes when you recruit locally, it can be very tough. Here's a situation that was told to me. I'm going to see if you agree or disagree with this. A lot of times they felt obligated to a certain extent to sign some local student athletes, but sometimes they don't pan out. For example, Coach Richard would often tell me, you hear from somebody say, check out my son. And this is kind of before the days of huddle, like you can just watch the film. And they would bring in tapes, and the kid is, you talk to the parent or someone who's representing the parent. He may be a linebacker, 6'3", 235. But then when you actually view the tape, he's 5'9", and he's 205 pounds. But he has a tremendous heart, and he really wants to play. So you have that situation. You'll get criticized if you don't recruit the local kids. My simple philosophy when talking to everyone is when you say locally, to me, local means not only the city, but the whole state that you're in. Now, of course, Texas is a huge state, right? Very huge, a huge population. Louisiana, much smaller, much less people. But when you look at it, you've got to get kids who, one, want to be there. Two, that they're going to be students first and they're going to work hard. And then you have to promise to help them develop from the freshman to the senior year. And then they walk across the stage with a degree. And from an athletic standpoint, they are much better than when they first got there. So recruiting, it's just, I sit from the outside and look in. But just speaking with different coaches, sometimes it can, it's the bloodline to your athletic, programs. But you've got to have the right fit. And they say sometimes you can't rely or you can't fall to the pressure to recruit so much locally that you may forget or look at some players that's outside your geographical print.
Well, that's no doubt. That's no doubt at all. And I think part of it, it's a twofold challenge. Sometimes people take for granted the very institution that's right there in your backyard because you've been around it. and you don't see the value in it as outsiders would. So you'll be like, for instance, when I talked about Lincoln University, when Reed was on, Lincoln University was about an hour and a half drive from my front door. And some of the kids, including myself, you think you bigger and better than that local program. And so you look at that as a downgrade. You got what I'm saying? You be like, I don't want to go there. Then it doesn't seem like you, quote unquote, went to college. So that's part of the problem. The other part of the problem is that you could have a person with pretty good talent that the local school don't even throw their hat in the ring because they feel like they don't have a chance at recruiting that player. You got what I'm saying? There's a guy by the name of Johnny Holland, who is from Hempstead, Texas, which is 5 miles west of Prairie View. He's now a linebackers coach for the San Francisco 49ers. But he ended up going to Texas A&M, set all kind of records at Texas A&M, was part of the wrecking crew. And I asked him, I said, well, why didn't you ever go to Prairie View? He said, they never recruited me. They never recruited me. There was another guy who ended up going, Harvey Williams. He ended up being a running back for LSU, played with the Oakland Raiders and the Kansas City Chiefs. He's from Hempstead, Texas. Hey, Harvey, why didn't you ever go to Prairie View? They never recruited me. There's a guy right now playing defensive back for Oklahoma. Oh, man, I can't think of his last name right now. But anyway, this kid runs a 4.3 40. Played 3A football at Hempstead. Why didn't you go to Prairie View? They never recruited me. So, Jonte Abear, who set all kind of records for Prairie View and some records throughout the conference, right in your back door at Southern University. They never recruited him. So there are endless stories like that, and I think we need to start looking, especially with the pandemic and everything. You're going to have to be creative, and maybe now they can have Zoom meetings along with Huddle where you can have these one-on-ones and you don't have to spend as much money to bring a kid there. You can give them a virtual tour of your campus, and then if they say they look like they want to come there, to see if it's a perfect fit in person, then you can make that next move. But I think, as you say, the spirit of coming home is definitely in the air.
Boy, Abear. Well, I remember him. I also remember Charles Spiller.
Yeah.
And went on to play for Alcorn State. And I was heard that he was not at Southern University. Right. Now, that's the fan part of me, right?
Right.
Because
I know.
Woodville, Mississippi is a prime area. And Mark Frederick, if you're listening, I want to hear from you. Okay. And so, with that being said, he catches the touchdown in the back of the end zone, gets one. All he needs 1 foot. 1 foot in. They defeat Southern. That was Southern's only loss that season. Almost a perfect season. So even back then, in some instances, now, Coach Richardson had much success against Alcorn, and I must admit, but even it's something about Alcorn State. I may have to start moving my the teams that I like to dislike. I think Alcorn's moving up now in the rankings. JSU still number one. FAMU. Well, I'll stop right there. I'll come out with my new list. It needs to be updated. Needs to be updated. I want to thank Dr. McClellan. We'll get him back, of course, for coming on today. Coach Carl Reed Jr., head football coach of Lutheran North Middle High School. Also, Coach Van Pettaway for joining us. Everybody, as always, take care of yourself. Be safe. And make sure you tune in next Saturday morning at 10 a.m. for another edition of the Carlos Brown Show. Heard exclusively right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and And by the way, must thank Dr. Prince, too. Can't forget him. Until next Saturday at 10 a.m. As always, peace and God bless.